This is CBC Late Night News.
Good evening, I'm Maribel Tarouk. The mayor of Brampton wants more surveillance along two highways in Peel region. Patrick Brown says gangs are taking advantage of blind spots along the 410 and 403. He says installing closed-circuit cameras will help curb gun violence. But as Angelina King tells us, he needs the province's approval first.
It's crimes like this that Brampton's mayor says he wants to tackle head on. On Tuesday, a shooting on Highway 410 left a man dead while injuring a woman and teen boy. Peel police say there have been 3 other shootings on that highway in the last year and a half.
CCTV cameras are integral to have. We've seen gang activity from Toronto spill over into the 905, and unfortunately they're utilizing right now the 403 and the 410 for targeted shootings.
Peel's police board unanimously passed a motion saying it wants to work with the province to get approval and funding to install CCTV cameras along the 410 and 403. It says cameras can help with investigations and crime reduction.
Whether it's a piece of a vehicle, a license plate, maybe there's a suspect or part of an incident that's caught on video, we definitely try to utilize that tool so that we can complete our investigation.
Brown wants 64 cameras in total at a cost of about $3 million. He says approval from Queen's Park is needed because they're provincial highways. The province says the police board hasn't made a formal request, saying in a statement, should the Ministry of Transportation receive a submission, it will be given due consideration in consultation with our counterparts at the Ministry of the Solicitor General. Meanwhile, the province is paying to double the amount of CCTV cameras like this one in Toronto. A former privacy commissioner says she doesn't object to more cameras, but says when privacy concerns are at an all-time high, she suggests encrypting the video.
So if the police, for example, have probable cause that some crime has been committed, they can easily get a warrant, and that warrant can be used to decrypt the video surveillance that they are seeking. But by encrypting the video feed, what you gain is people can rest assured that this information is not going to be used for unauthorized surveillance purposes.
Brown's response to those with privacy concerns?
Don't engage in criminal activity and you'll be fine.
Brown says he wants the cameras up as soon as possible. Angelina King, CBC News, Brampton.
Today marks the 11th day of protests in Lebanon, and demonstrators in Mississauga rallied in solidarity.
We're here in order to give them high morale, okay, and to amplify their voice everywhere around the world, and to tell everyone that we want a change.
Many gathered at Celebration Square, waving flags and chanting. This comes as thousands overseas formed a human chain across Lebanon from north to south, stretching 171 kilometers to show support for the anti-government protests. And in Toronto, they're doing the same.
Government in Lebanon, our main goal right now is to get them to resign. That's why you'll hear a lot of people saying here right now, that means everybody means everybody. We don't want just one person to resign. We don't want just 2, we don't want 3. We want every single person to resign.
Rallies took place throughout the week across Canada, including Montreal and Bedford, Nova Scotia. Police say 2 men with gunshot wounds made their way to a hospital in the city's West End last night. Officers are trying to determine exactly where the shooting happened. They found shell casings on the sidewalk outside a complex in the area of Driftwood Avenue and Grand Ravine Drive. The 2 men arrived at the hospital with serious injuries just before 10 p.m. One of them was in his teens and the other in his 20s. A massive fire tore through a church in Windsor this afternoon, causing part of the roof to collapse. Firefighters responded to the fire at Walkerville Evangelical Baptist Church around 1 o'clock. The pastor inside said everyone inside the church was able to get out safely. During the fire's peak, nearby residents were asked to close their windows and shelter in place. Luckily, though, no one was injured. 3 people were rescued from submerged vehicles this morning after torrential rains in Mississauga overnight. The 3 were stranded in 2 vehicles under a rail bridge on Torbram Road between Steeles and Derry just before 5 a.m. Emergency crews moved them to safety and they were assessed by paramedics. Police put out a warning early this morning advising motorists to avoid Torbram Road due to extreme flooding. It's estimated between 20 to 40 millimeters of rain fell overnight. Torbram Road remains closed. And that was quite a situation we were watching overnight in the weather, Marta, but I guess it's all mostly cleared out?
Yeah, well, I mean, the next few days are going to be clear, but there is another system moving through. I'm not going to tell you just yet. Might be for Halloween. I don't want to spoil it. But looking at the current systems right now, I mean, there's a system that was here moving on into the Maritimes. But for Ontario, looking pretty clear. Overnight, 6 degrees, which for this time of year is above seasonal, which is about 4. And then during the day, it's going to be 14 degrees on Monday afternoon in Toronto, which is above seasonal, 11. That's what it should be for this time of year. So we're getting treated to some nice weather, some nice above seasonal temperatures. So you can see that here in this illustration. The orange obviously showing those warmer temperatures, near seasonal temperatures for parts of Ontario. As I mentioned, not much moisture in the atmosphere to work with, so there's not really a whole lot in terms of a precipitation forecast for Monday. Taking a look at Monday's forecast conditions across the board, you can see in Windsor 16 degrees, 14 in Toronto, and just a closer look at the GTA. So 15 in Guelph, Toronto 14 degrees, Hamilton 15 degrees, Niagara Falls 15. So it's looking fairly nice as well. And then taking a quick look at the 3-day forecast without giving you too much, you can see that rain icon coming in on Wednesday. I'll tell you a little bit more about your Halloween forecast a little later.
And that's an important one. So we'll see you in a bit. Thanks, Marta. Well, when it comes to weddings, the possibilities are endless, from different flower arrangements to food options and venues. Now, there's a new choice being added to the list: cannabis. Since it is legal in Canada, people now want to incorporate it into their wedding. Natalie Nanowski has the details.
Take a look at this bouquet. That bud in the middle, cannabis. And this centerpiece is actually a bong. These are only some of the trends at Toronto's first cannabis wedding expo. Philip Wolf started the event a few years ago in Colorado.
There was a lot of young entrepreneurs like us kind of in the hospitality and service side of cannabis, and there wasn't any way to market yourself. You know, people are really utilizing cannabis in not only weddings but events overall, and so they want to get inspired on ways that they can do so.
There we go. There's bud tenders that provide the latest pot smoking accessories and gastronomic experiences that match your food to different strains.
It smells quite a bit like chocolate and coffee.
Yeah, okay.
So
yeah, I get a little
like
bit of like cacao in there.
Yeah, exactly. So something like this would go great with like a creme brulee. You know, it would be good as, say, even something with a coffee at the end of the dinner.
Recreationally, like our guests at our wedding, like they are interested in that, so it's something that we considered.
Vendors, of course, want to give clients exactly what they want, but one of the problems that they're having is navigating Canada's cannabis laws, because when it comes to events like weddings, they're still a little bit hazy. Any type of bridal bouquet, in terms of we would deliver it and then the bride would have to, you know, give us the bud where we put it in for the design. Unfortunately, it's, again, back to that fine line where we putting the bud in and then giving it to her could be considered like distribution.
The best way to do it would be to bring your own bud, BYOB. So everyone donates to the bar. You have the use of us distributing it, all the accessories on hand.
Vendors say they expect to get more clarity as the industry continues to grow. Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Toronto.
A close game followed by a sudden death shootout, but they did it. Canada's field hockey team has punched their ticket to Tokyo 2020, and they did it on home soil. Canada took on Ireland today in the second and final game of their winner-take-all series in Vancouver. Captain Scott Tupper tied the game in the final seconds to force a shootout, Canada going on to beat Ireland 7-6. U.S. President Donald Trump has declared the leader of ISIS dead. But while the White House celebrates a victory, the question remains, is the threat over? More on that coming up. Plus, 3,000 firefighters are battling just one fire in Northern California's wine region. The erratic, fast-moving blaze has destroyed dozens of buildings and forced thousands to flee. We'll have the latest on that after the break. You're watching CBC Late Night News. He was a terrorist accused of crimes against humanity, a wanted fugitive constantly on the move. But tonight, the leader of ISIS is dead, and Donald Trump is declaring victory. The CBC's Paul Hunter has the details.
Rarely one to go easy with his words, Donald Trump today couldn't have been more blunt.
He was a sick and depraved man, and now he's gone. Baghdadi was vicious and violent, and he died in a vicious and violent way as a coward, running and crying.
This video is said to be of the raid, as 8 U.S. helicopters had flown in after intel from Iraq and Syrian Kurds, with U.S. Special Forces blasting their way into a walled compound on orders to catch or kill Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, who, said Trump, quickly fled into a tunnel.
Whimpering and crying and screaming all the way.
Chased by trained dogs until al-Baghdadi ran out of room.
He reached the end of the tunnel as our dogs chased him down. He ignited his vest, killing himself and the 3 children.
As Trump put it, substantial body parts were then gathered and tested for a DNA match. They got one. Back in Washington, Trump and other senior officials watched on from the Situation Room. Like a movie, said Trump, echoing that shot from 2011 and the raid under Barack Obama that killed Osama bin Laden. Though, as Trump put it today, the al-Baghdadi death is a bigger deal.
This is the biggest there is. This is the worst ever.
Trump called ISIS followers losers and frightened puppies, though some allies were quick to note
the killing of Baghdadi is a game changer in the war on terror. Doesn't mean the war is over.
Still, Trump seemed content to underline, in his terms, he got it done.
He died like a dog. He died like a coward. The world is now a much safer place.
Meanwhile, as that raid was being carried out in Syria, there were impeachment inquiry hearings happening on a Saturday on Capitol Hill. Trump himself, breaking with U.S. tradition, did not inform senior Democratic lawmakers of what was happening in Syria. He said he didn't trust them to keep a secret. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
Baghdadi was extremely secretive, rarely seen, but his extreme brutality was matched by grandiosity, styling himself the leader of the Muslim world. Shannon Martin has more on where his death leaves ISIS.
This is the last the world saw of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, a video released in April aiming to show his followers his resilience after ISIS lost its last remaining stronghold in Syria. His death now sends a different message.
This is an important sort of blow. It will likely have a symbolic impact on the group.
With a $25 million U.S. bounty on his head, for years Baghdadi worked mainly behind the scenes, urging and inspiring unspeakable terror. Baghdadi and his fighters captured some 88,000 square kilometers across Iraq and Syria, declaring their own state. At its height, ISIS was the most feared terrorist organization, recruiting young fighters from around the world, including Canada, and encouraging extremists like the California couple who opened fire at a holiday party.
The world is now a much safer place.
There is no evidence that removing or decapitating the leadership reduces the intensity of commitment and organizational capacity.
Janice Stein with the University of Toronto says where Baghdadi was killed in the Syrian region of Idlib, controlled by al-Qaeda, suggests he may have found new allies.
Al-Qaeda and ISIS have had terrible relationships. They are competitors one with the other. And yet al-Qaeda sheltered al-Baghdadi for these last period of time.
And with the death of its leader, the Islamic State may be more motivated than ever.
They're going to be energized and very much wanting to show that they're still relevant and powerful.
Security officials will now be watching for ISIS's response. Shannon Martin, CBC News, Toronto.
DNA samples are being collected in Vietnam in hopes of identifying the people who died this week in a truck in Britain. Several communities are in mourning, convinced that family or friends are among the dead. Churches have held candlelit prayers. In Britain, one person is charged with 39 counts of manslaughter. 3 others were released on bail today, arrested and questioned on suspicion of manslaughter. A statewide emergency has been declared in California because of extremely high winds and the fires they have fueled. Almost 200,000 people have now been ordered out of the biggest danger zone in Northern California's wine country. But millions of others right across the state are also suffering, left without power again. Kim Brunhuber has the details.
Californians had hoped for a reprieve from the heat, wind, and flames. It didn't come. Instead, things got worse.
So the wind that we have been talking about for the last few days has obviously surfaced, and the fire intensity has picked up.
Unprecedented winds gusting at more than 140 kilometers an hour fueled fires in the heart of Northern California's wine country. The Kincaid Fire, the state's worst this year, has already burned more than 120 square kilometers, forcing the largest evacuation in the county's history, many forced to pick up and flee in the dead of night.
It was quite a night for us.
We have over 180,000 people under evacuation right now.
Despite the efforts of more than 3,000 firefighters, the fire has jumped highways and consumed several wineries and dozens of homes along its path.
In certain areas, we've got rates of spread that are extremely dangerous at this point with erratic fire behavior.
Compounding the misery, blackouts, leaving about 3 million people in the dark. PG&E, the state's largest utility, has turned off power in vast swaths of the state because of fears that winds could down power lines, sparking more catastrophic fires. Despite this strategy, last week some of PG&E's high-voltage equipment broke near the time and place the Kincaid fire ignited. Facing mounting criticism, PG&E says the company doesn't take the decision to shut off power lightly.
We recognize for some it's an inconvenience, for some it's a hardship, and for some it's actually life-threatening.
PG&E could start restoring power as early as tomorrow, but the state still faces another 24 hours straight of red flag conditions. Get used to this, experts warn. Massive fires and blackouts. Welcome to the new autumn in California. Kim Brunhuber, CBC News, Los Angeles.
I'm really proud that there's so many people willing to help the homeless community out there.
Dozens came to the Mattamy Athletic Center at Ryerson today to use the free services a local organization is providing to help those at risk of experiencing homelessness. That story coming up on CBC Late Night News. A grassroots organization is connecting people in need with basic services of daily life. In an event today, Homeless Connect Toronto welcomed about 1,000 guests who are at risk of or experiencing homelessness. It offered free services that may be difficult to access as a way to help bring relief and form new connections.
We provide one-stop shop events for individuals who are experiencing or at risk of homelessness in Toronto. At the event, we have over 95 different service agencies that are partnering with us to offer their services. So some of them are really tangible things like haircuts, manicures, clothing, acupuncture, chiropractor, eye assessments, dental screenings. But there's also things to help them with employment and housing, legal issues, ID replacement, you name it, we have it here. We really hope that they receive just a sense of community and connection to people who are working with them all day today. And that's something that I think that surprises us every time, because we might offer 95 services, but really they're saying it's that connection with people that they value the most.
It's really impressive. It's sensational. All of these organizations coming together to impact a very marginalized and deprived group. So it's really awesome to see this happening today and to be a part of it. So thank you.
I didn't know that this was in my city, that I can come get clothes, get my knapsack. I'm really proud that there's so many people willing to help the homeless community out there. A lot of people don't know how bad the homeless situation is as our prices go up in housing, and I think this brings a lot of awareness to the public about the homeless situations.
This is something that we recognize needs to happen all the time. People coming together, connecting, whether it's agencies connecting, whether it's guests connecting, and our community connecting together. So we hope to be doing more of this in the future.
Great project. Now, Marta, I know you don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but it's important news. How to dress our trick-or-treaters on Halloween.
Well, you might want to modify some of the costumes. It's going to be wet and rainy and a little bit windy, and unfortunately it's going to be throughout the whole night. But let's focus a little bit about Monday, because it's going to be sunny ahead of the storm. So a Monday afternoon, 14 degrees this time of year. It should be around 11, so we're above seasonal in Toronto, so that's nice. Let's take a look at Monday's conditions across the board for the GTA. As I mentioned earlier, Guelph 15 degrees, Toronto 14, Hamilton 15, Niagara Falls 15. Now on Tuesday, this is the good news. Areas could see 20-degree weather. Look at Niagara Falls, 19, Hamilton 18, Toronto 17, so we're well above seasonal for this time of year for Tuesday. Now, as I mentioned, it is in through Thursday that you will see those showers. I mean, Wednesday, it will be a little bit rainy as well, and Thursday, see that system coming in. Kind of pauses just before that because we have a special look ahead for Halloween, and you can see the low forms above Texas, and then it's coming in and pushing in through the Great Lakes region, bringing some of that unsettled weather Wednesday and Thursday, and then a little bit in through Friday in the overnight hours, Thursday into Friday. So taking a look at that, I mean, at least we're not getting snow, because some of the areas in northeastern Ontario are getting some flurries, mixed precipitation, but for the south, that widespread rain. You can see on Thursday, Halloween, Toronto, 9 degrees. That rain icon is there. So again, bring your rain jacket, your umbrella. I don't know, be Mary Poppins for Halloween. Then you can incorporate it into your costume. I don't know, I'm trying to, you know, be creative. And then, so the snow, I mean, at least it's not here. There is snow through Tuesday for Timmins, and then it gets a more widespread snow through Friday for those areas. And just a quick look at that 7-day forecast for Toronto. I mean, if only these days were shifted a little bit. But Halloween is still going to be fun. You get candy, right?
And I think that's kind of going to be the whole point. It doesn't matter whether it's raining. The kids will do it regardless.
Yeah.
But thank you. That's very detailed, and now we're all better prepared. Thanks, Marta.
No problem.
And that's our show for you tonight. Thank you for watching. You can stay caught up on news anytime on our website, cbcnews.ca. We're going to leave you with the sights and sounds from a Diwali celebration at a temple in Scarborough today. Happy Diwali, everyone, if you're celebrating, and everyone else, have yourselves a great night.